The John, Anik, and Kenny Florian podcast. John, Anik, and Kenny Florian.
I fucking love them. I can't get enough of them.
Let's hear that Boston next.
Big jab there from Duffy, and Frank Mir is hurt now. Down goes Duffy, out cold. Frank Mir does it again. Rock'em sock'em robots here. Oh my goodness.
Hyperbole.
There are a couple of absolutely self-involved bullshit artists.
Here are your hosts, John, Anik, and Kenny Florian.
Well, I always look forward to doing this show, but especially so today. It is Monday, August 9th, 2021, episode 312 of the Anik and Florian podcast. Mom's basement last week. I'm in my son's bedroom. It's not a nursery. He's fucking 3. I'm in my son's bedroom today. So if I lean this way, you see the clouds on the wall, and I have the alphabet over my right shoulder. Is what it is, man. You know, my house is falling apart. We're fixing it. And when your studio is in your master bedroom, what are you going to do?
I like it. I like the background. The clouds are cute, man. I like it.
Thanks. So I'm in Hunto's room today, and we are ready to come at you with our UFC 265 recap. We will also be joined by PFL lightweight contender Kayla Harrison. So what, is she the former champion and a contender now because she's in the tournament? Do I have that right?
Exactly. New year, new season. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Just making sure. New color commentator. All right. So we're going to talk to Kayla Harrison towards the end of the program, and I'm just so inspired by her story. So I'm looking forward to that. Longo coming up in about 15 minutes if he is awake. And we have a lot to get to because UFC 265 was an absolute monster. What a pay-per-view in Houston, Texas. And we will begin headlines there with Ciryl Gane, who is the UFC's interim heavyweight champion. Total domination doesn't even begin to describe it. He eventually got Derek Lewis out of there by TKO. I thought the referee gave the Black Beast a lot of chances to intelligently defend and stay in the fight. Ciryl Gane is 10-0. He is all the rage, rightfully so, and he's taken a shiny new UFC interim championship belt back to France.
Once again, I was blown away by Ciryl Gane. You know, here's a guy who looked phenomenal against Volkov, was firing on all cylinders, just showed so much versatility and comfort in the octagon. And he showed that once again here against Derek Lewis. And again, how many guys can you point to that are 10-0 that carry that same kind of skill, comfort, and mindset? There's just not many in the world, period. He's an extremely, extremely talented athlete. Everyone talks about Ngannou's physical skills. I don't know many people that are that light on their feet who can move in and out like Gane can. I mean, again, just blown away. And again, I'd love to see the stats, and John, you may actually have this in the back of your head somewhere, of how many times that dude actually gets hit. He does not get hit. Right. I mean, it's unbelievable. His defensive maneuvering and footwork and angles is something to behold. He really is a special athlete. And I'm telling you, man, he could pull it off, and he might have that belt for a long time. What an athlete.
Couldn't have said it any better. You mentioned the word mindset. What is it going to take to phase this guy? I mean, maybe fighting a guy like Francis Ngannou because of the familiarity, right? Maybe that wrinkle would emotionally elevate his heart rate a tick. But Ken Flo, I want to talk about the physical gifts. I want to talk about all of the skills. I want to talk about what you talked about, that he's exceedingly hard to hit, and offensively he doesn't miss. But it's I keep coming back to the mentality. He's just totally unfazed by all these atmospheric conditions, crowd or no crowd at the Apex.
Right.
He's incredible.
He really is. Again, this is a guy who is built different than a lot of people out there. You see it physically, but again, in his approach, I mean, here he is fighting Derek Lewis in Derek Lewis's hometown with a huge crowd, main event, interim title on the line. And he's completely unfazed. And then, he talks about the belt. He's like, listen, I got this belt. It doesn't matter. I'm focused on the real heavyweight belt. That's what I want. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to win this fight. I mean, I was just really blown away by his maturity, his approach. And then, again, he's just a sniper out there as well. It's rare that you see any UFC fighter in any weight class have that kind of footwork. And you have a heavyweight who's moving like that. Good luck. That's exactly the kind of skill and footwork you need if you want to beat a devastating puncher like a Francis Ngannou.
After Jose Aldo's performance, I'm thinking to myself for a minute, we might have to lead the podcast with the King of Rio, and then Gane made sure that we did not do that. Of course, we're going to get to all of that stuff. But as Ciryl Gane sort of leads this MMA movement in France, and we talked to him about that, he sort of looks at us in deadpans as humbly as he can in our fighter meeting. You know, everyone in the gym started before me, right? I mean, and he is a total fucking phenom, man. Absolutely incredible. You know, some early betting lines suggest that he is favored to beat Francis Ngannou. I think that fight is going to command two-way action. Most people seem to have a strong opinion on one side or the other, but I want to stick on this performance here for a little bit and talk a little bit about Derek Lewis before we move on.
John, before you move on, sorry to cut you off.
This better be fucking good because I'm flowing.
It's great. It's great. The walkout for Ciryl Gane. Everyone thought that was by Paul Wall. That's Mike Jones. That's a Mike Jones song, and I'm white boy from New Hampshire, so I shouldn't be the one saying that. But just so that you guys get it right.
So what does that mean to me, Mike Jones? What does that mean to me? Because it seemed like, was he trying to mess with people in Houston or not?
Who?
Yeah, Paul Wall's from Houston.
Who?
Okay.
Mike Jones.
Mike Jones.
Who? Mike Jones.
Yeah.
Okay.
Come on,
yeah,
John.
I don't know. I mean, I know I
sometime.
retired as a hip hop authority in like 1999. I mean, I'm now I listen to fucking
hip hop.
Baby Shark.
Yeah.
Sorry. How much credibility did I just lose with Cody interjecting there? And now I have effectively lost my entire train of thought. So that was really effective. By the way, Ciryl Gane's brother, David, lives in Boston, and he's right there helping him with interpretation and incredible. So I said at the end of the fighter meeting, I was like, I like this fucking David Gane guy, you know? And he's like, oh, yeah. And he mentioned that he lived in Boston. I was like, City of Champions, huh? And Cody did politely ask if he could address something about the Ciryl Gane walkout. So I digress. But in terms of the performance, right, he mentioned, this is what I was going to talk about, his strength and conditioning coach, Ryan Gillet, right? When guys come in and they put over their strength and conditioning coach for like 3 minutes, that's always a good sign, right?
Yeah.
Like, this guy is just an absolute killer. Like, I hate my strength and conditioning coach because he pushes me so hard. So he's putting in all the right work. Yeah. So did Derek Lewis. And Derek Lewis said, in part, the reason why he put in the best training camp of his life is because he knew he was going to feel the pressure so much during fight week specifically. So he wanted to make sure that from a cardiovascular standpoint that he was not going to have to deal with anything during fight week mentally, to be like, oh, didn't want to have any headspace of questioning what shape he was in. But what do you make of Derek Lewis here? Obviously, he was hoping that there would be an opportunity, but against a guy like Ciryl Gane, I think you really got to kind of force the issue and be willing to go out on a stretcher if you're going to get it done. I mean, what were your thoughts on Derek Lewis in defeat?
Well, you know what? Listen, I think that Derek was in a tough spot just based on the fact that he's typically a pretty flat-footed guy. He's got a lot of power. There were times where he did reel in Ciryl Gane, and I thought that Gane was kind of making a mistake being in the pocket with him at times when he started trading.
Right.
And he's certainly going to have to be careful when he does that against someone like Francis Ngannou, who doesn't want to do that too often. But so he had his opportunities. But I think at some of those spots, he was either hurt to the body or hurt to the head, where he wasn't quite all there. He did his best to try to, lead Gane into those exchanges, wasn't able to land the shot that he needed. And really, I think it came down to footwork. He doesn't have that skill. There's not a whole lot of heavyweights that do. And Gane having that advantage and the speed advantage was huge. So Lewis tried. He was really outgunned there against Gane. It's more of a testament to how damn good Gane is, and not necessarily a knock on Derek Lewis. Derek Lewis is always going to have that power. He's always going to be dangerous as you stand in front of him. But Derek did his best. He doesn't have that same kind of movement that Gane has.
Not many heavyweights do. Perhaps none do. And that's why I think there's a lot of fascination. I was talking to Daniel Cormier yesterday about a John Jones, Ciryl Gane matchup. As much as Daniel doesn't necessarily want to put over John Jones, he really feels like John Jones is the guy that's going to provide the stiffest challenge for Ciryl Gane. And I would also say, Kenny, we'll get to the Gane Jones stuff, I'm sure, with Longo. But Fernand Lopez is going to be my coach of the year here on the Anik and Florian podcast, even if Gane loses to Ngannou before the year is out, because he essentially built both of these guys. I mean, with respect to our listener and my good friend Eric Nixick, who definitely took Francis Ngannou to that next level. Look what Fernand Lopez has done. And, Ciryl Gane deserves a lot of credit for entrusting in this man, because Gane was told in no uncertain terms by Fernand Lopez that he had to transition to mixed martial arts. This is where he was going to realize greatness financially and otherwise. And he essentially has had these big pockets of inactivity waiting for the UFC debut. And then during COVID, he had 4 fights going away. He has a daughter and another one on the way. And now Ciryl Gane is in all likelihood going to be a multimillionaire. And he's one of the very best heavyweights in the world with a UFC belt 3 years into his MMA training, never mind career.
It's amazing. I mean, a couple things, right? First of all, no coach, or it's rare that you get a coach or you have a gym and Francis Ngannou walks in and you have that opportunity. And then you get Ciryl Gane to walk in the gym doors. I mean, that's
fair. That is fair.
So yes, I would say absolutely he deserves credit. But also, I mean, it's like, you get a once in a lifetime athlete, then you get two,
Did they both circumstantially walk in the door? I got to think with one of them, he at least recruited them inside the building. I think Francis kind of just showed up, right?
Yeah, it's crazy. But I would, outside the gym, I imagine him having like freakishly good athletic giants welcome here, and just bring him in. Let him come into the gym.
Yeah. If you are above 6'3", 225, I will turn you into a monster. Yeah. And of course, I don't want to discount all of Gane's Muay Thai experience, 2-time French Muay Thai champion, but this is a willing wrestler and grappler. And if you had said to him, you have to beat Derek Lewis, but you have to take him down at least once in every round, and you have to try to submit him, you can't knock him out, I think Gane might have been able to go out and do it, man.
He's a martial artist. There's no question about it. He's a student of the game.
All right, so in terms of Ciryl Gane and Francis Ngannou, people have a lot of strong opinions as to how this fight will play out. And it's amazing how quickly people want to spin this thing forward and not just celebrate the win, but that is the world in which we live. So what are your thoughts on a potential fight between Ciryl Gane and Francis Ngannou? And God help the broadcaster saying Gane and Gane, Gane and Ngannou, Gane and Ngannou.
Exactly. It's hard not to do that, right? I mean, how do you not get giddy and excited after seeing that performance from Gane? I think that for both of those guys, it's a winnable fight. There's no question about that. Both are unique in their style. I think Gane certainly has a footwork advantage, and Ngannou has a power advantage where, the window of opportunity for someone like Ngannou to land, if he lands the right shot, it could be over, right? In a second. I don't think Gane has that same kind of ability, but where he can win the fight is by frustrating Ngannou, keeping him on the outside, sticking and moving, making it more of a long range battle, and also threatening that takedown a little bit as Ngannou tries to close that distance or close that gap and leap forward. So it's going to be a fascinating fight. It's going to take a perfect game plan from both guys. And I think that's the heavyweight fight that everyone kind of dreams of and salivates over. The UFC, of course, being at the front of that.
Right.
So that's going to be an unbelievable fight, man.
DraftKings
and they've trained together.
They have trained together.
Yeah. And of course, the coaches.
Who's releasing that video, though? A lot of UFC fighters, Kamaru Usman and others, suggested that was done in poor taste, and I would certainly lean on that side of the opinion. DraftKings Sportsbook, Francis Ngannou -170, John Jones +150. They have odds on that fight, but they do not have odds, at least on my phone, as I just checked, on Francis Ngannou versus Ciryl Gane or on John Jones versus Ciryl Gane. Cody's telling me in other spots, Francis Ngannou -115, Ciryl Gane -102. Again, I think that's going to be a close fight. It's going to command two-way action. But I did say to, I think, Max Kellerman off camera that I thought that if Ngannou were to open as the favorite, that I wouldn't be at all surprised to see Gane close as the betting favorite, because a lot of people in the MMA space that I have talked to seem pretty convicted on the Gane side here early. Do you think Ciryl Gane has more ways to beat Francis Ngannou than the other way around? Because I certainly do. I think Ciryl Gane has more ways to win, and given his discipline, I think Francis is going to really have to be more perfect than Gane is going to have to be perfect.
I think that's accurate, John. I think that for Gane, he has a little bit more tools. He uses more of his tools, where Ngannou's kind of more of a boxer. Not to say he can't kick an elbow and things like that, but I think Gane can get it done in more ways. And because of that, I think that's why he might end up, right before fight week as the betting favorite. I agree.
And Cody is chiming in. How do we check our recency bias? And I think that's fair, right? I can understand why people think that it's a recency bias, but when you see Ciryl Gane compete live, I think you understand why he gets all of the hype and all of the accolades and all of the words from the fighters, right? Like, I'm just sort of impressionable, but listening when all of these pro fighters are talking to me in these glorifying terms like you and DC, I mean, and Dom,
Well, I'll say this. Here's the other thing. And again, styles make fights. So I don't like doing the whole, if A fighter beats B fighter, that means blah, blah. The MMA math doesn't always work out, of course. But could Ngannou do what Gane just did to Derek Lewis, right? Obviously, we can go back to their first fight and whatever. There was a lot of hesitancy on the part of Francis Ngannou. For Ngannou to go out and beat Derek Lewis, he has to put himself way more in harm's way than, say, Gane does. Gane is way slicker in how he enters. He's way slicker in how he creates those angles and how he gets in and gets out and the different tools that he uses. And Ngannou can very well kill a man with one shot. That is always going to make him dangerous. But it's a different approach. Just the way that Gane does it, he just looks like one of the most skillful UFC heavyweights that I've seen ever, period.
All right, plenty more coming up on UFC 265 with Ray Longo. We will get his thoughts on Ciryl Gane and Francis Ngannou as well. And, people want to hear from you on the King of Rio, Jose Aldo, because you fought him 10 years ago. I'm going to try not to be selfish with the Aldo space today because I have so many good things to say about that man and that athlete. But it looks like Ray Longo is on the screws of 11 a.m. Eastern. Let's get to Ray.
It's now time for the Ray Longo Minute.
I want you to punch a hole in his fucking chest. That's what I want.
The Ray Longo Minute. Starring Ray Longo. The John Anik and Kenny Florian podcast.
Hey!
Man, it's gonna be a rough one today.
Oh, can you center yourself up on that camera if you don't mind? It's great to see Ray Longo representing Chris Weidman, the All-American, with his T-shirt today. And that's an old school bad boy T-shirt.
Is it a bad boy? I don't even know.
So it seems like you had extra rounds duties on UFC Fight Pass over the weekend. Your hair certainly seemed to be a bigger focus going into that. I mean, you can't even stick a fucking comb through that thing for our show, but for extra rounds, you don't have a logo on your T-shirt and your hair's done. So we understand where we fall.
Where's my Anik and Florian T-shirt? That's the first thing.
So you don't have any? Cody said he sent you a bunch of. You don't have any stuff.
I don't believe I do.
Because you go on extra rounds, right? And I know they pay you a bunch of money and all that. You're wearing a plain T-shirt, If you're going to wear a logo T-shirt on our show, I mean, do you want to promote Chris Weidman's YouTube channel while you're here or no?
Yeah, sure. Everybody listen to Don't Back Down.
I wouldn't. I don't think it's great. I'm just kidding. I'm totally kidding. Hey, you came at me last week, so I don't know what you thought you were walking into today, but I barely slept since UFC 265, so fucking all over my ass last week.
Long weekend.
Yeah, so what time?
What do we got, guys?
What time do you go to bed after extra rounds anyway? 3, 4 in the morning?
I'm going to say 3.
Yeah.
3 or 4, yeah.
So we were just about to get into Jose Aldo, and I just wanted to sort of set up for people, especially anyone who was critical of his decision to drop down to 135 pounds. So, Kenny, when he was cutting to 45 and fighting guys like you, he didn't have to eliminate cheeseburgers during his training camp, and he could still make 46, or I guess it was 45 for him. It was never 46.
Right.
But he knew if he was going to be a bantamweight that he needed to make wholesale lifestyle changes that he would sustain year round. And that's what he has done. So the result is that these weight cuts are actually easier, despite the aesthetic that people are seeing, than the cuts were to featherweight. And I think some recent performances really speak to that. He's talked a lot about his alignment with the Marine Corps boxing program. He won't shut up about that, Kenny. So, Ray, I guess I'll start with you, and then you can send it to the man who actually fought him. What do you make of this soon-to-be 35-year-old version of Jose Aldo Jr.?
I like this version of Jose Aldo. He really did a great job, and his boxing is point on. I mean, basically just outboxed him. I mean, that's what he did at 35, and 34, going to be 35. But, the thing is, these guys, they don't eat right year round. That's the thing. So when you really dedicate yourself to the science of eating, and there is a science, this is crazy how old he is, and he makes this weight easier. I remember people telling me, like he was having trouble at 45, but now he's 10 pounds lighter. He's older, so everything's going against the grain. So, I'm not the diet guy in the gym, but I know, we had Tony Ricci. The guy was a genius. And let me shout out to Tony Ricci too, because he just left. He's down with you, John, in Florida now. So,
wow,
your gain or loss. But
is he going to come try to work on my strength and conditioning and my nutrition? A lot of people trying to.
There's a race for that. But no, the point being is that there's a science there, and if you do the right thing, the weight's going to come off, and you're going to be better. There's just no question about it. But a lot of guys, look, they're not going to follow it. Jose Aldo looks like he's doing the right thing, and he's making the weight easier. I don't know if he's a 5-round fighter, but I'll tell you, it's going to be hard to beat him in 3 rounds for sure. He looks good, man. He really looked great. And just look at his attitude after the fight. He's just a happy guy and just great for the sport. He's a former champ, doing the right things, it looks like. And that's what I think, I key in on. He just looks like a good dude, and he's doing great. I enjoy watching him fight. I thought he knows he's very patient. He knows how to pick his shots. He threw the kicks in just at the right times, just to offset them, to go back to the hands. Great night against a real tough forward pressure type of fighter in Pedro Munoz. Just, but the range just wasn't there for him, and he was just outgunned.
Kenflo.
John, there are a lot of great fighters in MMA, right? Especially in the UFC. There are very few MMA masters. I would consider Jose Aldo an MMA master. He's a guy that can make even the most dangerous fighters look okay. Man. That to me is a sign of mastery. And Pedro Munoz is a very dangerous guy. He came to fight. He was trying to get in Jose Aldo's face. But when you have that kind of skill level and you can make someone miss like that, and you have so many different moves and tricks, to me, it looked like teacher and student out there. Jose Aldo is that good. And, to just piggyback on what Ray said earlier, it shows his dedication. Here was a guy that I heard rumors, right? I fought the guy. I was, trying to find as much about the guy as I could. He did have trouble making 145. What did he do to make 135? Obviously, it takes a tremendous amount of discipline, and to do it in your mid-30s after you've already become a multiple-time world champion in a different weight class shows his dedication to martial arts, to the sport, to himself. He is a true professional, and I think the obvious statement of the year is that Jose Aldo is a future Hall of Famer.
Wow, well, that goes without saying.
Yeah,
that's a given. They don't even vote on that. You just put them in.
So I guess then when I say to you guys that I get legitimately more nervous for my Jose Aldo fighter meeting than my pay-per-view open to millions of people for a Connor Dustin-led pay-per-view, then you would probably say, I get it, right? Like there's just something about this guy, and he has resonated with Americans. I just have to say, to such an extent, without even embracing the English language at all compared to the level of his fellow Brazilians. This guy just, I don't know, man. There's this star power that just emanates off of this dude. And then to be performing at this level, it's insane.
And he looks like he's just at a good space in his life, man.
Yeah.
You got to remember, he got, kind of humiliated by Conor. That's not easy to come back from. That whole stressful.
I need to see them fight again.
Yeah,
I need to see them.
That would be awesome too. Even at 145, I don't think Connor's going to make 145. Maybe Aldo goes back to 55. But
no, it would have to be. It would have to be. I would
55
think 55
or something.
50 would be the absolute lowest weight. I would think lightweight fight. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's not. TJ asked me that. I said it's never going to happen.
It can't now because Aldo is so wholly focused on being a title contention. And again, he's literally flipped the switch on the way he runs his life to walk around as like a 47-pound man.
The story of Aldo is another one that they have a movie about him in Brazil, but a lot of people don't know. He came from nothing. He literally, his home was the mats over at Novo União. So, we're under Pederneiras, his gym, and that's where he slept. That was his home. fighters and jiu-jitsu guys like Leonardo Santos would come and whatever extra change he had, he would give to Jose Aldo so he can go out and get lunch or breakfast or something. I mean, that's where he comes from. And to see the level of success that he's accomplished now in Brazil, in the UFC as a former champion, now a business owner, successful business owner, and to see the kind of life that he's created for himself, it's an amazing story.
The movie is on Netflix, by the way.
And John, as a coach, you could see he stayed with the same team. He could have left. He could have left after the loss, but you could see like just the closeness that him and Andre, the bond that they have. I mean, it's just it really is a great story. And the guy still has a lot of fight left in him. But that's the other thing. He could have left. He could have jumped around from gym to gym. He could have let people get in his head. You should be doing this. You should be doing that. But no, those guys stayed together. And that's why I'm always going to be a big Jose Aldo fan, man. And I think it's a great story. And you could see it in the ring that night. You know what I mean? That's a long time this guy's fighting.
Yeah.
To still have that type of bonding going on is fucking great.
You're wise to sort of bring up the Brazil angle. He has been softly critical, Kenny, of fighters who have left Brazil, seeking greener pastures. He is super fond of Pedro Munoz as a human being, but he sort of said in a long form interview I read, I don't really feel like I'm fighting in Brazil. You moved to the United States in 2010, but a couple other things real quick on Jose Aldo, just from our fighter meeting. We asked him about Pedro. He's like, other people should be worried too. Like, that's the level of his confidence. Even going into the Munoz fight, he's like, y'all don't understand. Like, other people are going to be worried too. Like, people are focused on the weight cut. Like, forget my weight cut. Like, I'm going to make the number. You need me to make 34 and a half, I'll fucking do that for you, despite the way I look in the face. But his will to win, Kenny, is higher than it's ever been. Like, he is putting in the best training camps of his life right now.
Absolutely. You could see that. And again, that Jose Aldo that showed up in round 3, especially, does anybody beat that Jose Aldo? I mean, those were the kicks we used to see. Those are the combinations. Those are the angles. I mean, everything he threw was just so sharp and precise. I mean, there really is nothing you could fault him in that round 4. I mean, the way that he was moving, he was just at a whole different level. Not to say rounds 1 and 2 were bad at all. They were very impressive as well. But round 3, Aldo, that was vintage Aldo plus. It was really pretty to watch.
Yeah.
I did get a text from Ray Longo during the pay-per-view this weekend, and we will get to that in a second. I promise we'll get to that.
I'm blown away by whoever that guy is, and I'm just
he's telling me that I'm going to be commentating tennis pretty soon, so he doesn't seem to be a super nice guy either. But
really,
anyway, that's neither here nor there. I just want to real quickly get your thoughts, and we don't have to go too long on this, but Ciryl Gane. How special is he in your eyes, and how do you forecast a matchup between him and Francis, if you don't mind?
Man, first off, very special. More special than he was last week.
Yes, that's a great way to put it.
You know what I mean? It definitely. Look, Ngannou and Derek Lewis, they looked at each other for 3 rounds, right? This is my takeaway. I don't know if anybody landed a punch. It was a horrible fight, right? They were very, very cautious. This guy didn't care. This guy, look, even between him and Aldo, the use of the jab alone was phenomenal, right? They just set everything up off the jab. They were pot-shotting, or at least Ciryl was, pot-shotting, but he wasn't afraid. He took his time like he always does. He's a very patient, well-thought-out, calm, cool, collective fighter who, when he gets you in trouble, it's a different animal, So he's got great killer instinct when he gets you in trouble. He's willing to wait for that opportunity and not overextend himself and make mistakes. I saw a really, really special guy that night against a guy that, again, even though the odds were huge in Cyryl's favor, at any given point in time, this other guy could get you out of there. We've seen it 100 times in the past, but this guy, I mean, he took him apart and he knocked him out. I mean, that's not easy to do.
Yeah, man.
I mean, easily, not even.
And the best version of Derek Lewis by far was the guy.
Yeah. I know Derek Lewis looked like, he came to fight, but this guy is definitely special. And I would say he will be the favorite going into that Ngannou fight just based on that reason.
Yeah. Very interesting stuff. All right. Again, I didn't think we would get to this Rafael Fiziev, Bobby Green fight and the ensuing scorecards before we talked about like Vicente Luque, but that we need to do this. Okay, we need to talk about this right now. So Rafael Fiziev defeats Bobby Green in the featured prelim by unanimous decision, 29-28 times 2, right? Because I think most of the masses, as well as 2 of the 3 judges, score rounds 1 and 2 for Rafael Fiziev and round 3 for Bobby Green. But the third scorecard was 30-27 for Rafael Fiziev. So when I didn't even hear it announced live, but certainly when Bobby Green heard that 30-27, he thought assuredly he had won the fight because he knew that maybe he didn't win round 1 or 2, but certainly he had won round 3. So my daughters are 10 and 8. They don't know the scoring criteria. And I didn't even think, Ray, for this third round that they really needed to know the criteria. So I just sat them down. I said, can you guys just give me 5 minutes? Just watch this round and tell me who you think won. And they finished watching the round. They're like, are you trying to like trick us or something? Like, we thought Green won. What are you, So, but again, I don't know. So, the MMA masses are upset. Obviously there are a lot of judges who historically have a track record of a lot of bad scorecards. I'm not even going to utter this judge's name. I don't really care about that, but all the pro fighters are coming to Bobby Green's defense because this scorecard was an absolute disgrace in the eyes of many.
Yeah. I mean, look, you got to go by something. That when I was like Bobby Green, I go out and giving him the fight. And let me tell you, rounds 1 and 2, I think round 1 was, obviously that was the score to fight, but it was a very close fight. Bobby Green walked him down. I think he took away that guy's offense enough to where he just broke him down in the third round. But when I heard 30-27, you have to go with that too, because that was such an obvious round. Like, how can you fuck that round up? It's impossible. It's totally impossible. And for a guy to defend that is even worse. And that's why I say sometimes
I agree.
The masses have to hear these guys talk so they can out them themselves. They'll get on social media and they'll bury the guy. You cannot defend that. Bobby Green won that round. I mean, like, he looked great in that round. And I could see Bobby thinking he won the fight. I mean, there's no question about it. But man, that's just awful. It's awful.
And Kenny, what bothers me the most, I think,
and this really is for Bobby Green, because I don't want that. I think he's been looking great lately. I don't want.
Oh yeah.
I wouldn't like to see him get mentally beaten down by some mental deficient who has no clue as to what he's doing.
Kenny, that's the issue, right? Is that this judge now, in defense of his scorecard, seems to be more worried about what he perceives to be public shaming than he is worried about the athlete, right? Not once has he expressed anything about the athletes,
That's the thing, man. It's okay if you make a mistake. It's okay. But when you go ahead and defend that and act like, hey, I got it right, guys, there wasn't, and Cody's just, texting us now. No judges on MMAdecisions.com had a 30-27. There wasn't
or
one.
No media members, right?
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, man, again, the numbers don't always tell the story, but when you see that kind of disparity in the amount of strikes that Bobby Green landed and the kind of strikes that he landed on Fiziev, it's like, come on. I mean, a lot of those shots, I mean, Fiziev, as tough as he is, was kind of, turning away and kind of flinching and kind of backing up. I mean, I thought it was a pretty clear round for Green. I mean, I was just kind of shocked. And, it's tough. There is a lot of eyes watching this sport. You're going to get a lot of criticism. That's kind of the nature of what you do, of what I do, what the fighters do, and all that stuff. But for a referee to go in there and try to, say, hey, that, you're wrong. I think you need to go back. There needs to be some kind of accountability, talk to other officials, talk to other referees, judges, fighters, see what went wrong and let's get it better. Let's fix this because again, if it was any closer, this could have determined a lot for both of these fighters, right? As we know it does. The UFC fights, being a professional fighter, these are big, these are make or break spots for these guys. It could be the difference between, hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars for these
like,
guys.
Do you really want to know, like Bobby Green,
your career changes? So
yeah, but like Bobby Green, he has 3 different children, and I think in 3 different spots, he's trying to buy a 3rd house, and again, this didn't affect the outcome, right? He still got a $50,000 bonus, but largely this not affecting the outcome is neither here nor there. We're talking about singularly the way a paid judge is scoring a round, and this was not a hard round to score, despite his best intentions to try to push that message out to the public. I have not found a single high-profile fighter or coach who scored round 3 for Rafael Fiziev. And as soon as this slapdick called out my credibility, I booked Mark Goddard on the show next week. So Mark Goddard's going to give Mark Goddard is about as credible a resource as I can find in the space. So I immediately went in that direction. So anybody who has any questions on the scoring front, I didn't want to bog it down with that today, but just a really disappointing thing that happened.
Right, the guy had the balls to insult you over that.
But I don't even care. It's not about me. I didn't even include his name in the post.
John, it's not about that. Nobody cares about that, but it's principle that this guy would do that. I mean, I think that's goes to show you how bad it is. That's just stupid.
And anyone who's listening to this podcast knows that we have tried to dig into the scoring and study it and talk about affecting change and what could be done to make things better. But man, that is really something, that is really something. You guys got anything else on that before we move on? I mean, Rafael Fiziev, I think, is a guy who's going to draw top 15 opposition. And, I was talking to Danny Rubenstein, Rafael Fiziev's manager, who certainly didn't think his fighter won the 3rd round, but he won the fight. And he said, this is a little bit disappointing because at least in the next week, because of that scorecard, there's going to be more discourse about that judge's scorecard than there is going to be about Rafael Fiziev's performance. So
I mean, he's still a killer. You got a good one there, Rubes.
Yeah, he's still a killer, but you got to give it up to Bobby Green, man. He didn't budge. He didn't give up a fucking inch of that fight, man. Against the guy that was throwing heat.
Kept coming forward. He ate a lot of leg kicks, Ray. How many guys can take those leg kicks and keep coming forward?
Let me tell you something. I give it up to Bobby Green. I mean, if one guy came out of that fight tougher, it's Bobby. It's not.
I might need to get a Bobby King Green tattoo, man, like a king emote. No,
I think he came across great during the quarantine and the pandemic. Yeah. He had a bunch of fights, and I got to talk to him maybe once or twice, but just a good dude. And man, that's not an easy fight going up against that guy. And I thought he did a great job of walking him down. And in that 3rd round, he had a chance of getting him out of there.
Yeah.
Oh, that's how one-sided I thought the round was.
Yep.
Oh man, always something. Well, it's very interesting what's going on at bantamweight with Aljamain Sterling and Petr Yan, and maybe it's Rob Font that ends up being the guy that gets Jose Aldo, and would that be 3 or 5? And Dominic Cruz is coming back, might get Cheeto Vera or Sean O'Malley potentially. I mean, bantamweight is on fire, and of course they're all chasing Longo's guys, so it's pretty exciting. All right, before we let you go, and then if you have anything to promote on the way out with all of your myriad appearances, you can certainly do that. But Vicente Luque and Michael Chiesa, great sort of microcosm about the thrill and the agony in this sport. And for Michael Chiesa, this is a huge setback. But what else can be said about Vicente Luque, right, Ken Flo? Like, he's won 10 of 11. He's finished 19 of his 21 pro wins. He's got a lot of chokes in his arsenal as a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu brown belt, but he's really a striker. Kenny, I guess I'll start with you on Luque and Chiesa, but what'd you make of Vicente's submission defense turned into submission offense there?
I knew that it was definitely possible for Chiesa to win that fight. His ability to take down and control is really impressive. But I think for me, when I looked at that fight, the reason why I picked Luque is not only did I see him having a big advantage on the feet, but I said, this guy's got some submissions in his back pocket where you get him on his back. It's not like you're safe there either. The way that he was able to come back, his toughness, Luque is going to fight tooth and nail. He's the kind of guy, he'll let an arm break, just so he can get out and then beat you with it. He is so tough, and he was in some difficult spots against Chiesa, was able to escape, get on top, and capitalize when he needed to. He's putting it all together at the right time, and doing it against a guy like Chiesa is extremely impressive. And I will say this, as a guy who, when I was fighting, was doing analysis work and commentary work and stuff, that isn't easy. I think that playing both of those roles and, maybe putting more pressure on yourself and making it a bigger deal than it is can get to you. And I know Chiesa kind of alluded to that. And I do know, though, that Chiesa will come back stronger and better like he has before. And it was a tough loss, but more than anything else, he ran into a Luque that is firing on all cylinders.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a tough guy to beat.
Yeah, no, look, two good guys. They're gonna, they're both gonna do great in the future. Luque definitely deserves a shot. He looked phenomenal, and Mike is just a nice guy that, maybe you're right with the commentating. It's hard to juggle everything at the same time, but he did get the fight where he wanted to. He did come out with a different strategy. So whatever he was thinking in his head worked. It was a beautiful takedown. And he had his opportunity to win that fight, and it didn't go his way. And the other guy jumped on that, right out of the scramble of that. And hats off to him, man. Again, great job. Really just a great job with a lot of things.
You got a lot of welterweight contenders that on paper have put together a body of work that is worthy of a title shot right now. I mean, even Gilbert Burns, I know he fought for the belt recently, right? But the way he came back, if you needed a welterweight contender for like an interim fight, like Gilbert Burns has the resume, but I'm really talking about Leon Edwards and Vicente Luque. And certainly I think Colby Covington deserves being in that mix, even though he only had one win after the championship fight. All right. Always good to have Ray Longo on my Monday. I mean, and thank you for texting me over the weekend. Nothing makes me happier when I see the name Longo or Florian in my cell phone when I'm on a headset for 8.5 hours.
I was just blown away by that. I really was like, I don't know. I just was blown away. I was like, I almost threw the phone against the wall. So I decided to text you and save my phone. But hey, real quick. So I have Justin the Kid Montalvo fighting in Bellator this week, Friday night.
All right.
Making his Bellator debut.
Okay.
And we have two amateurs, Steve Lee and Anthony DeLemme, fighting on the hometown circuit in Long Island. On the amateur circuit, I hope I have everybody in, but they're both fighting on the same night. So it's a big night for the gym.
How about that? Steve Lee getting right back in there, huh?
And I don't know if you guys put all their wrestling. Did you guys see they do I guess it's a summer wrestling tournament at Hofstra? And those guys all decided to jump in yesterday.
Oh, really?
Steve Lee, Anthony DeLemme, Marab, and Aljamain Sterling. And who do you think won?
Marab.
Crowd favorite.
Yeah. And he won, right?
He won. He decided to go.
Yeah, easy fucking money. Just Wallace Willie. Wallace Willie.
You gotta love that guy. It's just crazy, Just
he probably tried to enter another weight class just to do a second one for fun.
Well, he sucked some weight so he wouldn't have to wrestle Aljo. But Aljo took second against a real tough kid I forget where, maybe Nassau, but I think he's a All-American. But the fact that those guys just do that and they have fun, and they raised a lot of money was a good benefit. Jamie Franco, who helped run.
I know Jamie. Yeah,
just raised some money.
Yeah.
And
that's cool, man.
But somebody sent me a video of Marab, just like some poor kid trying to take him down. He was kind of bored and laughing, and the kids trying.
Unbelievable. So does extra rounds give you the opportunity to talk about all this stuff at the end of your UFC 255 recap or no?
Oh yeah, shout out to extra rounds.
That's enough.
You don't watch that.
Hey, thanks for your time.
Pearl Gonzalez going at it, but she's a pisser and a half.
Yeah, she's a piston. Hey, your homework for next week. Can you wear a T-shirt that represents this brand?
100%. I guarantee you.
All right.
That I promise.
My man.
11 o'clock is early, John.
All right. We'll do 11:30 next week. All right. We just the listeners want you as close to the top of the show as possible. So again, we're just trying to pacify what is a very needy audience.
Kenny, was it me or did he cut me off real quick when I started talking about extra round? It's over.
Yeah.
I didn't even get the words out of my mouth yet. I got and he was already off. I was out.
All right.
Hey, listen. Send me the name of that the judge.
He's gonna get a knock on his door.
Unbelievable.
Take it easy, guys.
Thank you, buddy. Ray Longo with us every week here on the Anik and Florian podcast. But part of my reason for booking Mark Goddard on the judging front is to say, because people, I don't like when, a Muay Thai guy will denigrate like a mixed martial arts fan on Instagram and say that the mixed martial arts fan can't have an opinion about the score of a round because he didn't train in Muay Thai. So like I got people trying to denigrate my credentials. I've been calling mixed martial arts fights since 2009, and my best friends in the world are all the very best fighters to ever do it. And those have been the people who have been in my ears for 12 to 13 years. So I always qualify my comments on this show by the fact that my opinion is that of an amateur and not a professional. But to suggest that my opinion or an MMA fan that has watched every fight since 2001.
You've seen one or two fights that have been scored over the years. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, all right. Before we move on, and by the way, congratulations to the Fall River, Massachusetts native Tisha Torres, who looked outstanding against Angela Hill. A lot of big winners over the weekend. Congrats to Miles Johns for the performance of the night bonus. Huge knockout of Anderson Dos Santos. I was surprised to see on SportsCenter's top 10, Miles Johns got the number 5, and the top play was Manel Kopp for the head kick knockout of Ode Osborne that, by the way, hit his shoulder and his jaw. And I didn't go too deep into it on the broadcast because we needed to move on, but I thought Ode deserved a little bit more time, and I also didn't think the knee landed flush on the jaw, but I stayed in my lane. Cody agrees. Early stoppage. There you go. All right, before we move on, mixed martial arts legend Nick Diaz will make his return at UFC 266 September 25th. He takes on a former opponent, former UFC welterweight champion, Robbie Lawler. So Diaz-Lawler 1 took place at UFC 247. That was April 2nd of 2004. That night, Nick Diaz won by knockout. The rematch, 17 plus years in the making, goes down September 25.
That's right. UFC 47. Round 2 knockout there for Nick Diaz. Just amazing that they're going to run it back. This is the fight that I think every UFC fan wanted to see. It's a rematch that I've been waiting for a while. These are two guys that have done some amazing things in this sport since then. Back then it was kind of like we were going to see who was going to be the emerging star out of those two. A lot of people thought it was going to be Robbie Lawler just based on his build and based on what he was doing in the UFC at the time. He was just murdering dudes at like 19 years old, was just insane. Nick Diaz was in his early 20s at the time. And we saw that toughness from Nick Diaz. He, again, in classic Nick Diaz fashion, ate some big shots, was able to come back, landed a beautiful shot that put Robbie Lawler out. Nick Diaz became this star because of it. And, I can't wait to see how that rematch materializes. Both those guys are absolute studs. This is a fight that just makes a whole lot of sense.
All right, so first fight we mentioned in 2004, a couple nuggets that I thought you might find interesting, and hopefully the audience would as well, because there are more of them than you. So Diaz at the time of that first fight made $3,000 a show and $3,000 a win. It was his 11th pro fight.
Wow.
And now he's returning, of course, for the first time since January 31st of 2015, a night on which he was pretty competitive against Anderson Silva. Lawler was 8-1 when he fought Nick Diaz the first time. He made $8,000 a show. So despite losing, he still made more money on a night when the total fight purse was $333,000. So stands to reason both guys are going to make more than that individually for the rematch. Robbie Lawler's fought 7 times since we last saw Nick Diaz compete. Last fight for Lawler against Neil Magny, decision loss last August 29. Robbie's lost 4 in a row, 2 of those 25-minute distance fights. Odds for the first fight between Robbie Lawler and Nick Diaz. Any idea? How could you possibly have an idea?
I'd imagine that Robbie was probably a big favorite, but I don't know. What was it?
It was in 2004. I couldn't find a betting line. They don't go back that far as a fucking trick question.
Yeah.
BestFightOdds.com suggests the odds for the rematch opened at Robbie Lawler -250 and Nick Diaz +210. Right now on DraftKings Sportsbook, Lawler is -120 and Nick Diaz is +100, the even money underdog. Does that surprise you at all? What do you think? The opening number surprises me that either one of these men would be a -250 favorite
right
against the other. But I think Lawler, given the active or more active schedule, I should say, probably would deserve the distinction as the favorite. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's probably right. It's hard, man. Anytime we don't see a fighter for a long time, we don't exactly know what they're going to look like, how they're going to enter into the octagon. I know that Dick has been teasing this comeback for a long time. Obviously, it's a fight for him that makes a lot of sense. And, don't count him out.
All right. Before we get on out of here, I want to announce our winner of the correct prediction. He had Ciryl Gane by round 3 TKO, and I believe he hails from Germany. He was the first man to reply, and I'm trying to find the post right now, but I'm going to show you what is coming your way in the prize pack. We basically solicited opinion to give you predictions on Ciryl Gane versus Derek Lewis. So our correct predictor, and Cody hopefully will get me his name by the end of the program, is going to get an MMA bobblehead. Ken, look at this shit, man. Am I fucking boring you? MMA bobblehead. Brian T. City Ortega, Los Angeles, California. These things are so well thought out and so well made. This is a one-of-a-kind souvenir. So we are sending this all the way to Germany, courtesy of MMA bobblehead. You're also getting a hat from millions.co, where you can also buy one more sleep hats. You're also getting a Kenny Florian t-shirt.
That will end up as a cleaning rag, but we appreciate it.
So if you are not watching on YouTube right now, it is a Kenny Florian t-shirt from the Anik and Florian podcast. There's the back of it. So that is in your prize package as well. Also an Anik and Florian dad cap, because I sure as fuck ain't wearing it. And you also get an Anik and Florian water bottle, as well as other stuff that Cody and I might throw in there. Probably something from Canada Dips if you like CBD and all that. The winner's name is Alexander Petresky. Alexander Petresky. Congratulations. We will follow up with you on social media. You win the prize package. All right. It is time now to get to a 2-time Olympic gold medalist. All right. Now with us here on the podcast, someone who one day could just go down as one of the best combat sports athletes of all time, and a woman for whom I have a lot of respect, not just as an athlete. She is PFL lightweight contender Kayla Harrison. Kayla, I know it's a busy time. Appreciate a few minutes today. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
All right, so 10 days from now, you will compete in the women's semifinals. Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino, Hollywood, Florida, about 33 minutes from my front door, even closer for you. So a week and a half out for a layman like me. What will your training consist of today as you sort of get closer to fight week?
Well, today I'm going to still train twice a day and then kind of start slowing it down. It's been a grind. I don't know if you're familiar with the PFL format, but it's a season format. So
right.
I fought a lot this year, gonna fight 4 times. You pretty much go from one camp to the next. So it's been a little bit of a grind. I'm looking forward to fight week because that means it's kind of rest week.
Right.
And Kayla, obviously,
go ahead.
Kayla, obviously, you've done this before, world champion already. And I'm curious as to how this season is different from your previous championship run.
I think the competition has stepped up a lot. I think that Larissa's gotten better. Jenna's gotten better. I've gotten better. I think also, I had already re-signed with the PFL before the semis and before the finals of last year. So this year's, there's, I think, a little more, I don't want to say pressure because it's not the right word, but there are more eyes, I guess. What's she going to do? Where's she going to go? What's going to happen? Is she going to, dominate? Kind of just a lot of questions. So my eyes are on the prize, though. I'm focused. I know that if I go out there and still my will and do my job, that hopefully, everything will work out.
The Olympics just wrapped. Did you watch the women's judo and what did you think of the competition there?
I watched my friend Angie compete, but I didn't, that's late to stay up late for, I'm a mom now. So it's like, I can barely make it to fights. So
right.
I saw the Japanese girl won my division, which I wasn't surprised. The Japanese kind of killed it this year at the Olympics, to nobody's surprise. But I had some nostalgia, but I don't miss it, if that makes any sense.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, that's what I was alluding to. Yeah. All right, cool.
No,
it's so interesting when you talk about a lot more eyeballs on your fights, right? Because for me, I'm working probably 25 UFC shows a year. Contractually, I got to watch like 41 of these things. I got 3 kids under 10, but your fights have become appointment viewing for a lot of us who don't have time to watch every PFL show. So sounds like you kind of feel that the entirety of the MMA world is watching when you're competing.
Yeah. And I mean, that's what I want, that's what I've worked so hard for my entire career. I don't, I'm not here to, obviously, it feels good to have eyes on you and you want to be big and famous and rich and all of this, but
Yeah.
I'm not doing it for any of those reasons. I'm doing it because I want to be the best in the world, and I want to be so good that you can't ignore me. And I feel like I'm on that track.
PFL lightweight champion Kayla Harrison with us here on the Anik and Florian podcast. So if my research is accurate, you were to face, is it Jenna Fabian in 2019? Okay, yep. I pronounced her name right. See, I don't have a pronunciation guide for the PFL, Ken Flo, so don't get all over me. But both lefties, obviously she is a familiar name. What are your thoughts on the challenge that lies ahead here?
Yeah, like you said, I was slated to fight her in the 2019 semis. She pulled out of the fight. So it's a matchup I've been preparing for a while. I feel like she's gotten better. Her striking's gotten sharper, but I'm not sure how her wrestling is. I feel like it's kind of your quintessential classic matchup. You know, it's grappler versus striker. She's a tall lefty. I'm a short lefty. I'm a grappler. She's a striker. It's going to be about whoever can impose their will. And I think we all know that everyone knows what I'm going to do, but they can't stop it.
Your competitive pedigree is unbelievable. We're coming off a fight in which Ciryl Gane just beat Derek Lewis for the UFC's interim heavyweight championship. And we talk a lot about his physical, but his mental just seems next level. So calm, cool, and collected. And I think you get a lot of credit for that as well. How does one walkout feel compared to the next in terms of knowing that you're the one with the eyeballs and the pressure all on you, timeout? Every time out, I should say.
I think it gets easier. You know, I'm the type of athlete who I competed my whole life. You know, judo doesn't have a season. You know, you have a South American tour, an Asian tour, a European tour. You're going from one tournament to the next, spending months living out of a suitcase, competing back to back. So the more cage time I get, the more comfortable I get. The more it feels like this is my purpose, this is my job. And that was where I was in judo. You know, I got to the point where a final of a major event felt normal. It felt like home. It felt like my job to make it to the final and to win that final. So for me, every walkout gets a little bit easier because I feel like this is my job now. I'm starting to become comfortable, and I think that makes me even more dangerous.
So as many of our listeners and viewers probably know by now, you are the guardian of your niece and nephew, and you sort of teased motherhood there earlier. You came to the aid of your mom after the passing of your stepfather, Bob. And man, when I was reading about all of this over the last couple of weeks, I mean, every family would benefit from having a Kayla Harrison. I don't think we have a Kayla Harrison, by the way, but my twin brother was telling me about some of the challenges like in quarantine with these kids. I don't know how you have dealt with this in a COVID-19 climate, but how has the whole process been sort of balancing that new challenge with your professional fighting career?
Well, it's definitely been the biggest challenge of my life. You know, as a parent, it's the hardest job in the world. Also, the most rewarding job in the world. I'm actually in the process of adopting them, so I just signed the paperwork for that. So that's very exciting. But really, I think that everything happens for a reason. And I didn't know how empty my life was. I didn't know how much I needed them just as much as they needed me. And they've sort of filled my cup, if that makes sense. You know, it's the best time of my life. I've never been happier. I've never been more at peace. I've never been more exhausted. But it's all really kind of, it's all worked itself out. And, you know, I love them. You know, my greatest joys in life are not the 2 Olympic gold medals and the belts that I've got. You know, I don't even know where it is. The medals are in my sock drawer or something. Those aren't my achievements in life. It's, you know, watching my daughter dive into the pool when she was terrified of her, and watching Emery, you know, today he pointed to the number 1 and I'm like, holy, he's a genius. Like,
right. Yeah. See, thankfully I know my son's not a genius. We eliminated genius pretty early on in the process.
No, he's not. He's not a genius. He's definitely a killer though. He's going to be in Mako's wrestling program pretty much.
Oh man.
3.
Heck yeah.
It's funny.
You say
oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, you say Steve Mako, and I'm like 10 miles from him right now. It gives me anxiety just hearing you say his name. Like,
Mako Mondays are the best days of the week.
Yeah.
He's the best. But Emery is like, he's 2, and he's in the 88th percentile for height and weight. And Kayla is 8, and she's 9th percentile for height and weight. So I've got like a 50-pound 8-year-old and a 38-pound 2-year-old. And he is like rough and tumble. We've got mats at the house. He wants to, he wants to throw his sister around. And I'm like, oh man, I've got to channel this. It's going to be, they came to my fight for one of my fights. They came with me because the quarantine was so long and we had mats and I was working with Mike and Mako and Anderson. And, he started seeing ground and pound and stuff and like seeing me doing all this stuff. So he's like doing ground and pound on his stuff. Trying to like double leg his sister. I was like, oh boy.
I just got to know how he did and how you did in quarantine with a kid that young. I couldn't even imagine.
I mean, it was, I was really overwhelmed and really scared. I was scared shitless, to be honest with you. The first month was the scariest month of my life just because he was one and it was like, I have never had a kid. I don't know much about, I was the fun aunt who picked them up and popped them up on sugar and then said, all right, have fun.
Yeah, get the fuck out of here. Right. Yeah.
And now it's like, you got to eat your vegetables. You got to eat this. You got to do that. You got to make your bed. You got to do your, especially with the 2-year-old or 1-year-old at the time, he couldn't communicate. So it was a little scary, but we've got it down. Now, I'm wishing he was still a 1-year-old because now he's very vocal about what he wants, when he wants, how he wants it. So
I'm sure.
Yeah.
So, I have a million questions about Kayla, but I want to be respectful of your time. I'm just curious how she's sort of doing with all of the trauma, sort of getting out the other side. And I guess the extent to which she likes what you do for a career, or does it scare her now that she's getting a little bit older?
No, she's a little badass. She's pretty, she's
good.
She's definitely, I call her my flower child. Like she has a lot of creativity and she's a daydreamer. And like, I think that's one of the hardest jobs as a parent is realizing your kids are not you, right? Like they have their own personalities, their own habits, their own little ticks and their own things. And I was always like, boom, boom. Like I came home, I did my homework. I went to judo. I did this. And no one had to tell me. I just did it. But I can't draw. I'm not creative. I don't have a superb imagination like she does. So we're all, learning to help her thrive where she's passionate and what she's good at and what makes her special, has been a great joy in my life, but she's doing great. Kids are so resilient, man. And they are so, they're stronger than they know, and that's something I tell her every night. Like, you're stronger than you're braver than you think, you're fearless, you're bold. And she has I have positive affirmations on my mirror in my bathroom. So she writes down hers, like, I'm confident, I'm strong, I'm like all these things. And she's my little warrior. They both are. And I just feel super blessed to, I think I have a real opportunity here to kind of break the cycle. And to be a game changer in their lives. And our family has a huge history of trauma, but I'm still kicking, they're still kicking. And hopefully I give them a place to feel safe, to feel loved, to feel secure and to thrive.
It's amazing. Yeah, no, your story is a budding major motion picture. And I always joke with Kemflo, like I was supposed to break the cycle and have my kids like craving kale and not going to McDonald's. They do not like McDonald's, right? They feel like that shit tastes fake. So maybe I've done something right, but they're certainly not craving kale.
I do the same thing with Kayla. She's a very picky eater. When she first moved down here, she wouldn't eat meat, wouldn't eat protein, wouldn't eat any kind of nothing. And now she eats steak, eggs, chicken, turkey.
Amazing.
She went from 32 pounds to 50 pounds. But I told her, I was like, McDonald's has chemicals. So it's been over years. It's been over years.
Yeah, if you don't,
I've had McDonald's.
If you don't go to McDonald's for a long enough amount of time, you can actually taste the chemicals when you go back. So, all right, rapid fire questions, quick hits here, Kayla. You can give me 1-word answers on the way out. Which gold medal, because I haven't done my research, at least in terms of those matches, was more challenging to win for you, 2012 or 2016?
2012.
All right, you're 10-0 as an MMA pro, over under 20 total pro fights before your career is all said and done.
Over.
Oh, God, is that music to the ears of mixed martial arts fans around the world. All right, on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being your mixed martial arts fighting prime, where are you right now in relation to how good you can be at your peak?
4.
Wow. I'm writing that down. All right. Is there any food in particular that you routinely deprive yourself of that you enjoy either during training camp or otherwise?
I'm not a sadist, no.
Good. I love it. Do you lease
5 pounds, so.
Do you lease or own your car?
Own.
See, because like I won't let myself buy Nutty Buddies at the grocery store because I'll just fucking eat all of them. All right, who's going to win the UFC heavyweight title unification bout, Francis Ngannou or Ciryl Gane?
Gone.
Do you have a favorite sports team or a favorite fighter to watch?
I mean, I'm a Boston girl, so all the Boston teams, go Sox.
Well, yeah. We love that as two guys who lived the first 30 years of our lives in the great state of Massachusetts, and we were both born there. So good stuff. All right. Well, we know you're not. No, please go ahead. Sorry.
That was my favorite fighter growing up was Frankie Edgar.
Yeah, man.
Nice.
I kind of want to get that FE tattoo just to honor that man. Total legend. But see, for us Massachusetts folks, there's a little too much Jersey, Frankie. I love you. All right.
I would forget about that, but you're like a grown man getting a tattoo of another grown man symbol on you.
I have a history though. No, but see, they're multi-purpose, right? Because FE, it would actually be the iron symbol, right? And I can lean into, the multi-purpose. All right, Kayla Harrison, PFL lightweight champion. We know you're not focused on your contract. A couple fights left, but selfishly, I do hope to see you one day in the UFC and to get the chance to call a fight of yours. But you can be sure we will all be watching August 19th. And we appreciate your time today and hope to talk to you sometime on the other side. Thank you, Kayla.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks, Kayla.
All right, you can find her on social media. See the handles there at the bottom of the page. Kayla Harrison. I've admired her from afar, Kenny, for so long. And that was even before, she got into the motherhood game because of some of the circumstances that she was dealing with. And she's just a total inspiration, like for a parent like me. And then to learn this morning that she was in quarantine with like a 1 or 2 year old. I mean, bro.
The whole thing is an amazing story. And, again, I think that her whole attitude, her championship attitude, the way that she sees life, the way that she sees competition, just spreads out into everything she does. And she is going to be very difficult to beat inside the cage. And what she's doing outside of it is extremely impressive, and how she has stepped up for her family is amazing. And can't wait to see her compete. She's actually going to compete on the 27th. So we have the next 3 semifinals coming up. She's on the 27th of August against Jenna Fabian. And I unfortunately will be missing that one.
Wow.
Definitely will be watching. She's savage, man.
Man, I do all this fucking research, she's not even fighting 10 days from now, I mean,
I believe it's the 27th.
My sources are not good. All right. Well, either way, I may try to get in the building depending on my schedule, but very much enjoyed talking to Kayla Harrison today. She's not fucking competing on August 19th. So
she might be. She might be.
I mean, there's nothing Cody Merrow can do to make me look good when it comes to that edit.
We'll have Cody. Cody, can you look at that? Can we research that? All right. Yeah.
All right, AnikFlorianPodcast.com for all of your merchandise needs. You can also access both the audio and video versions of the program there. Kenny Florian's YouTube channel is flowing as well if you want to get a deeper dive into the jiu-jitsu stuff. By the way, did you, I don't know if you muted the broadcast while you were watching this weekend, but did you notice my comment about Michael Chiesa getting back in the gi a couple of fights ago? Did you hear me say that by chance?
No, I did. I didn't hear that.
So for the majority of his UFC career, he listed himself on his UFC bio as a Luis Claudio white belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, right? And obviously his credentials extend well beyond that, but he hasn't trained in the gi for years. So after he got submitted by Anthony Showtime Pettis, who is a legitimate Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, he didn't feel very good about that. So he got back in the gi, and now he is elevated to the level of purple belt. But now gi jiu-jitsu fundamentally has become a big part of his last 2 training camps.
That's interesting. Wow.
And of course, now this comes on the heels of a result that did not go his way. I'm not sure that, that gi or no gi training had anything to do with what happened against Vicente Luque, but I just thought it was interesting. In an era where seemingly to me, 8 of 9 fighters I talk to are getting out of the gi. One of the real good choke artists in the game is getting back in it. So I don't know.
That's pretty cool, man. I love it.
Did you train?
He's an excellent grappler, man. He made a mistake, against Luque, but again, I don't think that's necessarily attributed to his training in the gi or not. But I would say this, that, myself, I don't think it's a necessity to train in the gi. I think there are definite benefits to that. I think for him, it's a little bit more challenging. There's a lot more to worry about, a lot of other things you need to do with the gi. And and Cody just chimed in. John Anik, you're the man, dude. You are correct. It is on the 19th of August. You're right.
Unbelievable, man. I'm sitting here.
Did you see Kayla Harrison like mouth the words? She's like, "You're good." Did you see that? By the way?
No.
Yeah, you were doing, obviously you always do your research. And you mentioned, her stepdad Bob, who passed away, and all that. And she was like,
well, hey,
you missed that.
I appreciate that. But we don't have a lot of guests on this program, and part of the reason why is because I spend a lot of my professional life outside of this podcast interviewing pro fighters. So I want to sit here and talk shit and swear and be a dick with my man Ken Flo, so we don't always do that. But if you do want to hear from more high-profile fighters, hammer away at AnikFlorianPod on Instagram, on Twitter. Yeah. And we can make that happen for you selectively. But it will be August 19th. Here I am promoting, the Pioneers Fighting Legion out of my ears, and Ken Flo's got his dates messed up. So that would mean that you're calling Kayla Harrison's fight on August 19th,
I
right?
am. Which I'm very excited about. Yes.
All right.
It's good. I thought it was because typically they always would go last, but I'm glad I'm going to be able to do that.
All right, Pokemon Fight League 8, August 19th. I'm just like, credit to Cody Merrow for that one. I can't steal credit for that. I wanted to ask, did you train in the gi? Did you train in the gi your entire UFC career?
No.
Yeah, you didn't either.
I didn't train. I took the gi off, man. Every once in a while I would put it on for something fun for a day or two. But I didn't, and I tell a lot of fighters ask me, hey, do you think I should be training in the gi if I want to be an MMA fighter, or if I'm training for MMA fights? And I always say, absolutely not. You don't have to. I think in some cases it could hurt you because you become reliant on grips and things that aren't going to be there during the fight.
Yeah.
So, but there are other advantages. There are other things that help you as well. But yeah.
All right, good stuff today. Hope we did not offend too many people. Thanks to Ray Longo and Kayla Harrison. Thanks to Cody Merrow, our executive producer and jack of all trades. For Kenny Florian, I'm John Anik. We thank you all for watching and listening. We are right back in your life next Monday. We'll preview UFC Fight Night, Cannonier versus Gastelum. Until then, don't text and drive. Better yet, just put your phone down when you're driving. And Patty Militich, if you're out there listening and you watch the news lately, man, I'm in Florida, man. We might have to put our masks back on. So, don't be afraid to watch the news. Fake news travels 6 times faster than real news. Yo, later.
At the tone, please record your message.
This question is for John Anik from the Bane. I'm curious, John, how much are you benching these days? Is it upwards of 400? My guess is around the 5s. Have a good one. Ken, be blessed, baby.
At the tone, please record your message.
John Anik, you are the best in color commentary. There's no doubt about it. Kenny Florian, PFL is lucky to have you. I don't know how you're getting more attractive with age, but on the judging, why don't we go back to in John's own words, we always hear at the beginning of every pay-per-view, it's about striking, grappling, aggression, and octagon control. And then John makes the point to say in that order. I'm not saying we missed anything, but why don't we go back and talk about the striking comes before the grappling. So if you have the better, say it's a half round, there's a better striker, and in the second half a better grappler, I feel like the striker is supposed to win that. And that's kind of why I gave that fight to Corey Sandhagen. Thanks, guys.
At the tone, please record your message.
Hey, guys. I'd love to hear your take on if each of you could make one change to the sport, what would it be? Some things that come to mind are open scoring, changing the number of judges, the training for the judges, how the judges watch the fight, like on a monitor versus live, or something else. I'd love to hear what you think. Love the show, guys. See ya.
At the tone, please record your message.
Hey, Anik, Florian, I just got to say, man, You guys fucking rock. You bring joy to my heart, man. This podcast you got going on, it is absolutely fan-fucking-tastic. Now listen, man, I've been a fight fan since I had to rent VHS tapes to watch Hoist Gracie in the beginning, you know. But, you know, I don't think I've missed a card. Damn it!
At the tone, please record your message.
Anik, I just gotta say, man, I fucking absolutely love the podcast you got going on with the legend Ken Flo. You guys bring joy to my heart, man. I don't think I've missed a fight card in 5 years. And next to the fights, you guys are my favorite part of the week. So keep it up, guys. I fucking love you guys, man. Thank you very much. God bless.
At the tone, please record your message.
You know, as a military service member, I agree. It is much harder to carry a child out and about in Disney World than it is to carry our gear. Do not let anybody tell you otherwise. Play on, players.